Hello, everyone. So welcome to the first ABH Scale-Up event. We're going to get started in a couple minutes, but for now, what we're going to do is just have a little bit of music. If you can put your location that you're joining us from in the chat, we're so excited to have you all with us, and we should be starting soon. Hi, Michael. Would you like to say anything to our guests before we get started?
Oi. Yeah, hello, Soga and Ethel. Nice to meet you.
Hey, how's it going, Michael?
I'm doing well, and good show, and thanks very much for joining the event.
Of course, it's a pleasure.
And welcome everybody, from all over the continent to join the ScaleUp events. Enjoy, and hopefully, the content will be very helpful. I take a sneak peek, for the contents that our two heroes prepared, which was amazing, and it's going to be really, really practical for our entrepreneurs. So stay tuned.
Thank you, Michael. And just a quick housekeeping is we do have live French translation. So if you can go on the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see the interpretation button. Click on that and select if you want to listen in either English or in French. I see we have people joining from all over. It's so good to see. I see Kenya in the chat, Rwanda, Cameroon, Mauritius. Michael's joining us from Hong Kong. Soga is in the US, so it's truly a global event today. Hello to Ethiopia, Tunisia. We're so excited to see such a diverse group of people on this call. And as Michael said, I also had a sneak peek at the presentations, and I am so excited to see what our heroes have in store and to learn from them. We are also going to be doing live Q&A with our heroes, where we're going to let a few lucky audience members ask their questions live. So remember to post any questions you have on the chat, and the team is going to help select a couple people to ask our heroes those questions. So we're just waiting for our speaker Ethel to join. She's having a little bit of connection challenges. But Soga, how have you been? It's been a minute since we saw each other in Kigali last year. How have things been going? Besides like the big year we've seen MDaaS have.
Yeah, things have been going good. It's been, if you've been in the world, you know that there's been just a challenging few months for the world generally. But it's just being alive and kicking and still growing. It's great to do that in this environment. So we feel very lucky. We feel very privileged to be in the position we're in, and just excited to keep growing and keep providing high quality healthcare for Africans.
Amazing. We're so excited to see the continued growth this year. I'm sure our guests are eager to see the information that you have to share with us. So like, what have you been up to besides, all the work growth? What's Soga been doing since we last saw you?
It's been, to be honest, it's been mostly work. It's been mostly work because it's the business has grown a lot, and so because of that, we've had to just navigate that growth, and that's meant that I've been focusing mostly on work, and I'm hoping that at least at some point later this year I will have a nice vacation and and kind of like recover from this strength I'm just about to hand. So absolutely.
Where do you have any plans for where you're going to go for that vacation?
I don't have any specific plans yet, but I'm taking suggestions. So if you have any specific suggestions for me, I'm happy to take. In the past, I've done Costa Rica, and I loved the place. And also traveled quite around the US. But yeah, taking if you have any good suggestions for me, I don't mind.
Cool. So audience, if you have any suggestions for where Soga can go on holiday, I've heard Diani in Kenya is beautiful. Amazing beaches. You could do like safari and stuff as well. But with our super international guests today, if they have any suggestions, please drop them. I'd love to know too. So we're going to do a hero hot seat with you and Ethel, but since she's running a little bit late, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with you with a hot seat. And if she doesn't join us, we'll do your presentation first. So it gives her a little bit of time to get her internet sorted. So, Soga, what is your favorite food?
Oh, that was the easy one. It's pounded yam and egusi soup. Any Nigerian will know what that is, but I think it's the best thing ever. And I always look forward to having that anytime. I just came back from Nigeria actually and made sure that I indulged myself.
Good. So you haven't managed to find a good place in the US that makes it?
Yes, there are places, but they make in Nigeria, we actually pound the yam, which tastes different when you pound the yam. In the US, a lot of people make it with like, like with powdered yam. It's not the same. It's not the same. So yeah.
Doesn't taste like home.
No, it doesn't.
Not at all.
Yeah, but when you don't have a choice, obviously you do that.
You gotta eat.
But I always find even when I eat like egusi soup in the US compared to the one in Nigeria, it tastes differently. I feel like there's something in the taste when you're in Africa that makes the food taste slightly different. So yeah.
Okay. And then the next one is, what would you say is the most important skill for an entrepreneur to have?
To be honest, I think it's adaptability, being able to adapt to different situations. Because I feel like as an entrepreneur, you always have to reinvent yourself as you find new informations about the business you're trying to do. And I think that one of the things that we've been able to do, like our business has adapted and changed in different forms, sometimes big ways and sometimes very, very minute ways, but we're always able to adapt to where we need to be at every single level. And so we've grown from a business that we just had 4 people to now a business that have almost 300 people, right? And so you always have to constantly reinvent yourself to be, to be different, to be able to function at the next level. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, there's a saying as part of sort of our company culture here at ABH is change is the only constant. So you got to embrace that change every day and be adaptable, as you said.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's not like my number one entrepreneurship trait, I think.
So change. So the last question for you before we can go into your presentation is, what is the most useful piece of advice you've ever gotten?
I think the most useful piece of advice I keep going back is to free my mind. Free your mind, because I feel like when we grow up a certain way, we are used to thinking about this in a certain way. But like the world is such a big place and it's so expansive that there are always new ways of doing things. And in Yoruba culture, where I'm from, they said some people sometimes think that their father's farm is the biggest. But when you go out, you see that other people's father's farms are also like equally as big or even bigger than their father's farm. And so it's about being able to be open-minded enough to learning new information and to also grow and learn. I think that's the best advice I've ever gotten.
That's good. Cool. So I hope that is going to help some of our attendees as well. So I'm going to do a quick introduction to who you are before I hand over to you for your presentation. So Soga is the co-founder and CEO of MDaaS Global. His keynote today is going to be on how African startups can thrive in tough times, like what we faced last year. So MDaaS Global is building Africa's largest integrated care network to provide convenient, high quality, and affordable healthcare for the continent's next billion. So they provide increasing access to high quality, affordable care that puts patients first. Soga was the ABH 2020 first runner-up. And we're going to give one or two lucky audience members the opportunity to ask Soga their questions live. So pop them in the chat and we'll sort of choose the ones that look the most interesting, and then you'll get to chat to Soga a little bit. But without further ado, Soga, over to you.
Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here. Let me know when you can see my screen and then I can get started.
Your screen is up.
Okay, awesome, perfect. Welcome everybody. I didn't know this many people were going to be in the meeting. I thought it was going to be like 50 hot people, but it's exciting to have so many people as part of the this meeting, and it also speaks to the work ABH is doing on the continent and how you've been able to create this massive community of people that believe in the mission. So my name is Oluwasog. I'm going to introduce myself in depth a little bit more in the presentation. But today, one of the things I wanted to talk about will be how we can embrace anti-fragility and how, specifically around how African startups can survive some of the times we are in right now. So just to give you a brief agenda of how we're going to go about things today, I'm going to start with introduction, just introducing myself and my business a little bit more. And we're going to talk about being anti-fragile with an intro first, and how we can become anti-fragile. We're going to take a look at a few case studies of companies that have shown these traits I'm going to talk about today. And finally, we're going to have some takeaways, and hopefully I can take some questions from the team, and we can have a really great conversation around being anti-fragile. So a little bit about me. I'm the CEO, like Taria said, of MDaaS Global. I grew up in a family of medical doctors, so this is all I've known all my life. And I actually worked as a software engineer before I actually became an entrepreneur in the healthcare sector in Africa. I studied systems engineering at MIT, and I'm a rabid Arsenal fan. I'm a runner, and I brew my own beer. So these are fun facts about me. And yeah, and it's exciting to be here. And at MDaaS, we are building a modern tech-powered healthcare network. We want to be the largest one, and we're doing this by focusing on the infrastructure aspects first. And this is something we've done over the past few years. And now we're building a lot of technology that sits on top of the infrastructure. And the goal for us now is to see how the infrastructure and the technology aspect of our business can drive a lot of innovation in the African continent. And for most people that know us in Nigeria, they actually know us as Beacon at Diagnostics. That's because our first area of focus is diagnostics. So for our diagnostics play, we bring tech-enabled diagnostic centers to clinically underserved communities across the country. So these pictures you see right here today are pictures of our centers. They look super nice. And it doesn't matter if they're in Lagos, in Lekki, or even if they're in Offa, in Kwara State. We make sure that we know everybody in Nigeria deserves great care, and we want to be at the forefront of providing great care in the community in Nigeria. We focus on three key things in our business. We focus on delivering excellent care to our patients. We focus on making sure that we are close to people in the communities where they need us. And then we make sure that we are affordable, because we serve a lot of low to middle income patients, and we want to make sure that they can pay for our services. So super important. Just to give you a brief overview of where we are at right now, we are the fastest growing diagnostic network in the country. I think the only two that are bigger than us is Union Diagnostics, who've been around for 35 years, and then SynLab, who has also been around for over 20 years, and we just started like 5 years ago. We're the third largest in the country. Since we launched in November of 2017, we've seen over 175,000 patients with net promoter score of over 90%, which is incredibly high for an healthcare organization. Currently, we have 17 diagnostic locations across 8 states. And then in 2 more states, we have partners that help us attend to our patients. So we have presence in about 10 states. We're connected to, we get patient referrals from over 1,000 clinicians across Nigeria. We've worked with over 60 employer partners, and now served over 7,000 employees to date. We served right now we're connected to over 27 HMO networks. And when you put it in context, I think in Nigeria you have about 60 HMO networks, and we're connected to almost half of them already. And we're hoping that we keep growing that network, you know. And so this is also a picture of me getting my legs x-rayed in one of our centers because I played soccer and then injured myself. But it shows like so that you can see the feel and look of what our centers look like. But today, you know, one of the things I want to talk about today is being anti-fragile. And because when I look at how we've grown over these years, how we've achieved a lot of the great results we've achieved over the years, one thing that I keep coming back to is that one of our key factors for success is the fact that we became anti-fragile as we built. And in the past, you know, 12 months has been a trying time for tech startups in Nigeria and Africa, and actually, frankly, across the world. And we see that the companies that would do well in periods like this are companies that become anti-fragile. So that question is now, how can African startups become anti-fragile? And what are the challenges I'm talking about? Number one, and I'm sure you've heard it in the news several times, is like, you know, you see like inflation is so high right now. Even in the US, you know, all of the news, financial news is about how inflation needs to be tamed. And then there's a lot of cascading effect to this. When you have high inflation, I mean, the prices of everything becomes higher. And in a country where people are poor or low income, that means people afford to even buy the basics. So that ties to the second point. So most customers have limited capacity to pay, particularly if you're a B2C business, if you're selling directly to consumer, because of the high inflation, most people have limited capacity to pay for any services. That means outside food, you know, it's so hard to sell many things in Africa, in Nigeria, at least where we operate in. Outside like paying for food, right, which people have to eat to survive, it's so difficult to get people to pay for any value-add services. You know, the number of people that can pay for things are just dropping by the day because of the tough macroeconomic conditions. So we see that, you know, talk to any business owner, you know, in the past 6 months, one of the things that you keep hearing about is how tough the business environment has been. And then for startups like ours, like that, you know, that depend on investors to raise funds to do our business, or even just depend on you know, private equity, or not just VC, or even just getting angels to invest in you, right? This has been one of the most difficult periods where it's hard to raise money because of the high inflation, because of the tough macroeconomic conditions. Most people are not willing to give other people money to build the future. You know, when you can put your money into like really safe government bonds that will yield really high interest, right? So the fund environment is such that in the US, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in South Africa, it's really hard to raise money today. So that means that a lot of people that raise money at high valuations are not able to raise the next round of funding. And we also see that even in the past few months, if you've been checking a lot of the startup news, you see that a lot of companies are shutting down, or a lot of companies are just like closing down their, you know, outside the country expansion. Like you have stories about people shutting down their Uganda office, or shutting down their Lagos office, or shutting down things. That's because it's so tough to find support in the fundraising environment. And finally, which also is linked to the rest of the four I just spoke about, is the fact that sometimes you see really, really poor government policies, or sometimes very unpredictable government policy. We've seen that a lot of governments in Africa, as the way they've tried to deal with the high inflation have been very subpar, you know, and given on top of like very political instability, at least we experienced some of that in Nigeria earlier this year when we had the elections. And then sometimes you just have really poor government policy. Like, for example, in Nigeria, another example in Nigeria is the poor implementation of the cash new notes they tried to implement that led to like a massive cash crunch that affected a lot of business, including ours, right? And so these are like really tough challenges that, you know, if you don't know what you're doing, most likely than not, that's going to affect your business. So, and which means that for you to survive this type of environment, you have to become anti-fragile. But what is anti-fragility? It is this concept introduced by this author, Nassim Nicholas Taleb. And in this book, and I highly recommend this book to everybody on this call today. If you were to read a book, I think this is the book to read as you start to think about your business, as you start to think about your startup. One of the key features of anti-fragile systems is that anti-fragile systems improve, adapt, and become stronger in the face of uncertainty, chaos, and disruption. Yeah, that's a key factor that, you know, when you face this type of ulabalu, you know, or like Nigerians will say, ulaba, right? That you have to have a system that helps you improve, even in the face of the chaos of this. And in one quote I really, really like in the book is this one that is that, you know, this goes beyond just resilience, you know, is that in a anti-fragile system, you know, your system gets better. It's not like you survive, you thrive. So it means that, you know, in fact, when you are a startup that is anti-fragile, when you face hardship, you become better. You don't just bounce back, you become better. And that's, I feel like, it's a key trait that startups in Africa has to have, just because in Africa we deal with a lot of problems, low paying power, you know, government issues, like, you know, just a lot of lack of infrastructure and the rest. And so you have to have a problem that makes you better, even in the face of the challenges you face. And you know, one of the key distinctions is that there's actually three types of businesses or systems, right? There's the fragile system, like, so for example, if you have, like, you know, a glass, right? And you put an hammer on it and it shatters, that means that system is fragile. That means when you put a lot of stress on it, it just breaks down. And then you can look at a resilient system. A resilient system is a system that, you know, when you exert stress on it, it bounces back. It deforms for a little bit, but then bounces back to what it is. But an anti-fragile system, like, just say, for example, concrete, you know, the more you like put more stress on it, it becomes stronger over time. So when you look at like the Roman roads they built back in the day, that they built like 1,000 years ago or 1,500 years ago, you know, the more you use them, the more stronger they get. So that's what is the definition of an anti-fragile system. So you don't just want a resilient system where when you exert stress on it, it just bounces back to what it used to be. But it means that even though you might go through a period of where you try to figure things out, you would have to that challenge you face will make you stronger. That's the definition. So I want us to be clear about what the definition of an anti-fragile system is. And I will give you an example for us. So like something that we saw, we use this as an example, and we also have some case studies at the end of this presentation. So for example, during the cash crunch issue, because of the way we were set up, with the way we were designed across the board, you know, our systems are, you know, why a lot of our competitors, local competitors, could not even, they didn't, most of them, because it was mostly a cash economy, didn't even have POSs, right? So it affected their businesses. They didn't have like proper business accounts so that they can do transfers. We had all of that already. So when people were not able to even pay cash to when they're looking for a place that they didn't have to pay cash, or they didn't have cash to pay, that can just take, transfers and POSs and USSD. We were set up for that even before the cash crunch issue happened. So when that cash crunch issue happened and a lot of our competitors were unable to collect cash because there was no cash in the economy, those patients came to us and gave us good revenue. We also saw that with inflation, when we saw that a lot of the prices of reagents went up, and then a lot of our competitors were unable to buy the reagents because they were so expensive. So because of that, they had to send their patients to us to help them attend to their patients. So because of this challenge we face, which is a big economic issue, we got more patients from our competitors because they were sending to them to partner with us because they couldn't buy the reagents they need. So that, because we were set up to be anti-fragile, because there was high inflation, meant we got more customers instead of less customers. And that's what I mean by that. So as you think about your startup story and what you're doing with your startup, start thinking about, how do I set up my business to be anti-fragile so that when I run into challenges, I can actually earn from it rather than, get deformed from that. So the key question is now, how do we become anti-fragile as a startup? So I want to run you some of the key learnings we've had at MDaaS and about how we've built. And then hopefully you can apply this to your business. And I can also take questions at the end of this presentation about this. So I think that before you can even think about saying, oh, I want to be anti-fragile, I think you need to think about, are you really solving the right problem for the right people? Because you cannot be anti-fragile if you're solving a nice to have problem. You have to solve a must. The problem you're solving must be so important that people, it must be a true problem. And this is very key, because when you do a startup at the beginning, you will struggle. For us at MDaaS, it took us, I think, 18 months to get to a point where the business model that actually worked. So we went from, when we started, we were like an equipment supplier, went to equipment supplier to start to try to lease equipment to people. When that didn't work, we decided to set up our own diagnostic centers. And then that was now the problem. That's when we now had product market fit. That's when we were seeing customers come to us every single day. So it's important that as you think about like, oh, I want to have a business that is anti-fragile, that you are solving like a true pain point. Because like I said earlier, there's low paying power in Africa, right? In many parts of Africa, people just don't have enough a lot of customers, the masses don't have a lot of money to pay on, they're not going to pay you $100 for an ultrasound. Most of the time, they're maybe going to pay you like $5 or $10, right? So you have to be able to make sure that you can solve the access to ultrasound problem with the $5 or $10 that your patients have. Because in the US, if they did it in the US, you'll probably get paid maybe $500 for that. But in Africa, you probably get paid $20 or $5 or $10 for that. So you have to make sure that you're solving the right problem for the right people. For your customers, you must be solving an important enough problem for them so that when ad time comes, they will still like use you because you're solving a key pain point for them. So it's important that you think about your business. Are you solving the right problem or are you solving the wrong problem? And so that's number one. Before you can become anti-fragile, you need to be solving a true pain point for your customers. Number two, this is something I mentioned earlier when I was talking to Taria, is like, from the get-go, you have to be adaptable, because when you do startup in Africa, or when you just do, not even startups, when you do any business in Africa, things change and things can change fast. Sometimes you go through long periods of time when nothing changes, but sometimes you go through a period of time where things change. So for example, in Nigeria, right, when we started our business, $1 to the Nigerian naira was 200 to 1, right? So we planned our business of that. But right now, $1 to naira now is 730, right? So it's a difference of times 3 point something, right? And so you have to make sure that you can say, you know what happens to my business when Naira goes from 200 to 800? Do I still have a business? So it's important to always be able to refine your model to make sure that your business model works in a fast changing environment. And part of this is, number one, for your business, you have to have something you call KPIs, so key performance indicators. This is the true measure of your business, and you track that every single day. You have to track that every single day. And then you can, as things are changing, you can react, because now you have some things that you can use to measure your business. Okay, at 200 Naira to $1, this is how many patients a day I need to have a good business. At $700 to $1, this is X number of patients a day I need to have a good business. And then you can see how far behind you are on those goals, and you can see how fast you need to pivot and refine your offerings, because you can actually measure things as they happen, and you can quickly, navigate that environment. So it's really important to be adaptable. This trait for you, because when you look at this graph again, I will keep going to this graph. It's not that when the hard times come, when you get the key stressor in the system, it's not that you just go up. You went down first before you went back up. So the ability to be adaptable is what gets you back up, right? So when bad things happen in your business, you need to be able to be, things might go down a little bit, but you need to be able to bounce back and then accelerate from there. And the trait that helps you do that is being adaptable to different situations. Number 3, focusing on your cash balances. I think that this is more important, because in the end, without money in your bank accounts to do your business, you don't have a business. So what that means is that from day one, you need to always, like, if you're like a venture funded businesses like us, where we are lucky enough to raise money from investors, that means making sure that you're spending that money in the right way and tracking it as you go, so that you don't run out of money. Because in the end, the number one rule of startups is don't die. The reason why most startups die is because they run out of cash. So for you to be able to react to different situations and different things, you need to be able to monitor your cash flow. So if you're a business, that means as the CEO of the business, you need to have a really good handle on, like, okay, what are my cash balances? How many months of runway do I have? And how am I looking to get support so that I don't run out of cash? And when you know that, okay, maybe there's no investors, you cannot rely on any investor to be your sugar daddy, right? So what are you going to do? What can you cut and survive that initial event that's stressing your business? How much time do you have? And so that you can know when you need to pivot, when you need to explore new opportunities, it's so important to make sure that you have the cash balance to help you survive the initial period where you're trying to react and be adaptable. Very important. Then the next step is, this is something that you don't just do overnight. You do from even the time you start thinking about starting a business, which is like starting to build strategic partnerships with other businesses who might become your customers, or who might refer patients to you, to investors who will support you if you are not bootstrapped, if you're looking for investors, to mentors, like, this is where, like, organizations like ABH is absolutely useful, because we, by going through ABH we connected to a very, very strong network, and we're able to meet people we won't otherwise meet, because we were part of the ABH network. And of course, because we had this network, we also were one of the winners. So we got some cash infusions. And so that when we needed to survive period of hardship, that cash came in handy. What your network does is that your network gives you resources you need to survive events. And so, for example, a key event that we had to deal with this year was Silicon Valley Bank, that was one of our banks that we used. And when that happened, when Silicon Valley Bank was about to go under, like, we had to reach out to our investor network and say, hey, this is our bank and they're going through stress. And people rallied around to support us during that period of time. before the US government came in to support them. And they were like, you know what, even if the bank went down, we will support you regardless. And that's the importance of building a strong network. Because when you have stressor events, they kind of rally in support of you, but they won't rally if they think you're a bad business. They will only rally in support of you if they think you are solving a true pain point and you are a good business to back and you have good numbers. They will support you. Next is number one, is because some people raise money from investors, but the surest money you can raise is from your customers by having a good business that people are willing to pay for. And so that means you need to have a good relationship with your with your customers. You can react to their changing needs. So when they need something, you can give it to them. You can always solve for their pain points so that, you know, they will always pay you to render service to them. And that way you don't even really need to rely on any investors. And the truth is that when you have great customers, usually investors will come, right? So it's like this thing where there's a positive loop in that as long as you are good with your customers, it's easy for you to get investor support or support from the community or people just supporting you when you have good relationship with your customers and they come in like masses. So it's really important to, you know, to do your business in such a way that you can get a lot of customers and you can actually provide excellent service to them. And this is one of our secret sauce at MDaaS, is that our customer service is one of the best. Like I showed earlier, our net promoter score is over 90%. For healthcare businesses, that's really, really high. And that's because we've been able to build this really good relationship with our customers. Finally, this is important because in the end, it's about the team that you have, right? So, and as a entrepreneur, you won't be able to do everything. You have to be able to surround yourself with a team of problem solvers, because when you go through stressful events, what you need to be doing is problem solving. It's like, okay, how do we do this? How do we get better? How do we serve our patients better? How do we serve our customers better? How do we become a better organization? And so you need to develop a culture within your organizations that can build new capabilities for you and they can help you find a path forward when you run into challenges. So for example, at MDaaS, when we had, you know, when we realized that our equipment business wasn't working, that we need to change, guess what? We needed to develop a capability to be able to do diagnostics, right? And we were able to seamlessly transition to a company that does diagnostics because we had an organization of problem solvers. So we're able to solve it. It's like problem to be solved and we're able to solve it. And that's how you become anti-fragile. So yeah, so I want to run through a couple of case studies. Tahir, I don't know, how many minutes do you have left?
If you could wrap it up in 5 so we have a little bit of time for Q&A, that would be great. Okay, great. I think the next should just take 5. So I have 2 case studies here because I know that it's easy for me to talk about my own organizations, but there's other organizations that have put these principles into practice also. And one of them that I was really impressed with how they implemented was actually OPay, because during the cash crunch time, the cash crunch lasted about 2-3 months from January to say March, April in Nigeria. And I think OPay was probably one of the biggest winners. And I know maybe some of the Nigerians on the call can also agree with me. I think that they're one of the biggest winners of the cash crunch, because what happened was because the government was going to change currency. And they put a limit to when you can spend the old notes and versus when you can spend the new notes. And they were outlawing all the old notes. So there wasn't any cash available in country. So that means everybody had to go to digital. And so it was a big boom for digital, for banks that had apps, for digital fintech businesses. But many of them were not able to take advantage of it because everybody's business, every fintech, a lot of them were crashing because it was too much. Many of them were crashing. But OPay was one of the few that wasn't crashing. And because they were not crashing, you know, people started using them more, right? And then we also saw that
a lot of the time, most merchants in Nigeria did not have POS. And it's so difficult to get POS from a bank. But OPay made it so easy for a market woman to get POS. So all the market women started getting POSs. And because of that, people prefer to use OPay to pay market women because they only had OPay POSs and then they have to pay a transaction fee. So they just made the process really, really seamless. And because of that, millions of people joined their platform. And this thing that was supposed to be a big stress for them now became a big opportunity for them because they were able to implement in such an amazing way. Of course, OPay had raised a lot of money, and so that helped them. But guess what? GTB too raised a lot of money. Zenith Bank too raised a lot of money, but they kept crashing, right? But OPay was able to do it in a way that they were able to win that period. And now everybody, like anytime I have to transfer money to anybody now, it's OPay people are giving me. It's like, oh, just transfer to my OPay, So that's one case study. The other one was one of my another startup in Nigeria called Max. They're actually my friends. I know some Nigerians might know them. There was a time where they were using their bikes to transport people because of traffic in Lagos is very crazy. So people were able to escape traffic using their bikes. And that was the business that was doing really well. They were making like millions every day, to be honest. But overnight, the Lagos state government just says nobody is allowed to carry passenger with their bike anymore. So something that was giving them their most revenue just became zero overnight. The government did not give them warning. They were even still celebrating with the government before, a month before. It happened overnight. But guess what? Till today, Max is still in existence and they're even a good business. Even they've raised $40 million since then. And the reason is that they were able to transform their business from like carrying passengers from point A to point B to now becoming a financing platforms for bikes, for tricycles, and for cars. And now they're one of the few businesses, I think they're one of the few businesses that is assembling bikes that are electric that uses batteries because they feel like that's the future. So they are now at the forefront of leading Africa into the electric vehicle transformation, and they've been able to get the support of Yamaha in Japan because they are trying to champion that in Africa. And so not only were they able to survive that initial shock to their business model, they were able to use that shock to tap into even a bigger opportunity that more people were able to support. And that's how they became anti-fragile because they had the DNA from the get-go, and they had the team to do it. They were adaptable. They had the cash reserves and they managed their finances right. So all of the steps I talked about, they had all of that, and they were able to use that to transform their business. So that's the other case study I have. What I would like you guys to take away from this presentation is, as you think about your own business, think about it. Do I have a fragile business?
Voilà, donc maintenant.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So, the key big takeaway is, do you have a fragile business? Do you have a resilient business that can just bounce back? Or do you have an anti-fragile business that can get stronger when you experience stress? And for folks who are just starting their business, I know a lot of people are early stage. How do you design for your business to be anti-fragile from the get-go? And then what other examples can you learn from other folks like that, from the case studies I've shared with you and from other businesses that you see around you? And I hope that this would help you make your business stronger and hopefully be in a better place. I hope this was a good one. It's been a pleasure talking about this, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Soga. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to promote some people so they can actually ask you their questions live rather than me just repeating what they were going to say. So first up, we had a good question from John Luquesa. So what we're going to do, John, is we're going to allow you to talk so you can ask Soga your question directly. John, if you can unmute and then you can ask Soga your question.
Okay. Shall I just answer the question from live, or is John going to talk?
Yeah, I think he's on mute. So he's mute.
Okay, so mute.
He's now can talk. Hi, John.
Okay.
Hi. All right. Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. So I just had a quick question. I wanted I need assistance with how can a business operating in a very competitive market, there are very competitive markets where you have giants who have been in existence for quite a long time, and you're coming up with a new product. But then one thing you observe is you have limited resources, you have limited capacity. So what are the best ways you can maneuver such markets, and how can you be relevant or stay relevant in the market and ensure that you gain the revenues or you get the brand awareness that you need? Then the other question is, what are the best ways of raising funds? So I just had those two questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. Those are great questions. So I think that a lot of the times, I will take the last one first. Raising funds it's easier to raise fund when you have traction, and traction comes from having a good idea you're executing on. That is clear that you're solving a pain point for people. And if the pain point affects a large number of people, that there's a huge market, then it's easier to convince investor to invest in you. Because in the end, investors are not investing, they're not a charity. They want returns, and they have to be able to decide if you can deliver the returns they want. So it's about being able to show that there's traction, that this is a great idea. You're solving a key pain point for a large number of people, that can yield a return in the future. And if you can convince people of that, then it's easier to raise funds. And for me, sometimes I feel like people try to rush to raise funds early without having convincing proof that there's a good business there, or that there's a great idea there. And when you talk about, to take your first question, when you talk about how do you compete in a very competitive market, I think the thing is, if you're actually solving a true pain point, is to focus on a niche within that market and prove that there's a market there. So there's a good saying, I can't remember who said it, is that just make sure that when you think that there's a gap in a place, also make sure that there's a market in the gap. If you think that there's a gap in the market, make sure that there's also a market in the gap, right? So it's making sure that, the market might be competitive, but as long as you can carve out your own niche, you will be fine. So for example, in the diagnostics market in Africa, in Nigeria, right? You can say that, there's 10,000 labs in Nigeria. And in many places, we compete with a lot of independent mom and pop locations, right? But because we're able to do something different, we're able to carve out our own niche and become a market leader in many of these places. So are you able to focus on your niche, carve it out, prove that there's some traction there, prove that there's product market fit, take that information and present to investors, and then raise and get the support you need. So that's how we look at it. And sometimes at the beginning, nobody wants to bet on you. For the first 2 years of our existence, nobody wanted to bet on us. But once we proved that there's a market in the gap, right, people were willing to fund us.
Thank you so much, Soga. So there are a lot more questions coming through. If you could take a look at the Q&A, and if people can post their other questions on the chat for you, if you could answer those while we hand over to Ethel next. But that was super insightful. I hope people were making notes. But we will share the recording. We will share Soga's presentation with you. So if there was anything you missed, because I know Soga dropped a lot of nuggets of wisdom on everyone, you'll be able to rewatch that and get those nuggets. Thank you so much, Soga.
Thank you. Thank you. There's one more question here that I think is super interesting. It's about how diversification can advance fragility. I think that's such a great question, because part of what gets you anti-fragile sometimes it might be diversifying. So it's like, but you don't want to lose focus where you diversify into too many things. So it's a very fine line between like diversifying into too many things where nobody trusts that you know what you're doing. But I think that a diversification strategy can definitely help in advancing some of the being anti-fragile. And I think that part of it also is that, like, you know, as you evolve also, you build like the capacity in-house to, you know, to diversify when needs be, and to be a little bit more resilient when needs be. So I think that's a great question. That diversification can definitely help, but there's a fine line to draw between, you know, diversifying too much, that's, you know, you feel like you're not focused enough. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Soga. So next up, we've got our second speaker, who is also one of our 2020 ABH heroes, Dr. Ethel Mupambwa. She is the founder and managing director of MoneyMart Finance Zimbabwe. Her presentation today is going to be about the importance of building and maintaining company culture, which she is no stranger to from her experience running and growing MoneyMart, and which Soga also touched on as how important it is to being an anti-fragile company. So MoneyMart provides financial solutions for MSMEs, women and youths in underserved areas. Their products include a variety of tailored loans, including offerings for micro businesses, home solar systems, asset finance, and school fees, as well as affordable microinsurance cover. Ethel was the ABH 2020 second runner-up and the 2021 Zimbabwean Businesswoman of the Year. After her presentation, we'll also do some live Q&A. So without further ado, Ethel, you can share your screen, and over to you. Oh, Ethel, you're on mute, but we can see your screen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much, Tyra. And thank you, Soga. That was amazing, hey? And I really like the part of what's next. How can you develop your team with that anti-fragility in mind? And it's really connecting to what I'm going to talk about today, walking you through my experiences, especially having a company which is growing very fast. Imagine we were coming from almost when we won the Africa Business Euro competition, we had almost 3 existing branches, which we said these were alive at that point in time because it was COVID-19 era, to have grown into 25 branches as of to date. And also getting our appetite into the regional market into Zambia, and the companies to stand and have the culture that you intend to into the next phase of its growth. I'm going to talk about what is really culture and the levels of culture. After that, I'll talk about how to build a culture and the benefits of it. I'll be talking about my very own experience as an entrepreneur, as a CEO who is running a digital microfinance business in all this. So the first thing is, what is culture? You know, so company culture, for me, from my experiences, I realized that this is the lifeblood of a company. We might put other systems, but culture is a very, very core system in our organizations. it is the one which really determines our inputs and outputs for the results that we are going to be getting as a people, as a group of people coming together and making the vision go to the next level. A totality of our beliefs. What is the tradition in your organization? What do you value the most in your organization? For example, our values as MoneyMart Finance is PIPO, P-I-I-P-O, and it's an abbreviation which makes us pronounce the word people. And why do we value people? And the first P represents people, as in the word people, P-E-O-P-L-E. And we always say these people start with our employee first, before we even talk about the client. And why do we value the employee first before we talk about the client in our organization? Why have we adopted that culture to say, before anything, let's forget about the shareholder, let's forget about the director, let's forget about the regulator, let's forget about that one. Let's focus on the person sitting next to my chair when I come to work. Imagine the culture of the company. It is actually the bridge to the past as well as a guide to our future. Where are we going from here? What is our future looking like? So it is the way that we want to live, the manner that we understand the different cultures that we have. Even imagine being in Africa, all of us coming from all corners of Africa, but our cultures are different. The culture that we get in Zimbabwe here and the culture that we get from our next door neighbor, South Africa or Zambia or Mozambique or Botswana, is totally different. And why should you focus on that particular culture in your organization? Because culture is not something that you can go to the next door, to the next organization and just borrow and try to come and implement it in your very own organization. No, it can't. I was talking about our values as an organization in MoneyMart Finance. Why we value people and we say the employee first. Because we have realized that if we don't value our colleague, the person sitting next to me first, there's nothing that we can do the following day. Because if that person who is supposed to make our processes flow does not do his or her work, it means even up to me, the CEO, I will not even be able to produce my report for the regulator because I'm regulated by the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. So why? So this is the reason why I'm saying I need to value the person sitting next to me first, so that if this person is happy, automatically I know they can transfer that happiness, that positive transformation to my client. And what does the client do? A happy client will give me the result that I want, that I can take to the shareholder to see, look how we have performed. So I hope you are getting the importance of culture. You know, I always talk to people and say, culture seems to be the very least thing that we ignore as entrepreneurs, as our businesses grow. But it is also that simple aspect of our businesses that can destroy us, waking up, destroying us. Imagine not sharing the same values with your team and boom, the next organization opens and 80% of your team, they just move to the next or to the next organization. It means you can just be left there with no one to drive this vision, and you cannot do it all alone. That's why culture is so important. So there are levels of culture. First, I want to talk about the artifacts, what you see in an organization, what you hear, how you feel when you encounter even an employee from MoneyMart Finance. So these are the things that you see and you hear. For example, the way we call each other in an organization. Do we call each other on a first name basis? Or do we insist that the boss be called, say, ma'am, the manager be given that respect and no one can question the manager? You know, those are the aspects, the first basis of the culture of the organization. I am the boss today, yes, and I'm forcing everyone to call me ma'am. How are you, ma'am? When someone sees me, they just have to go on their knees and show me that they've met the owner of the organization, they've met the boss of the organization. Where does it take you as an entrepreneur? And you need to look at your environment. Like in my organization, the people that we work with mostly women. And these women are in rural areas, in peri-urban areas. And according to our culture here in Zimbabwe, these women prefer, especially the married ones, prefer to be called by the name of their firstborns. So what does it tell you as an organization? Are you going to force the culture that you have to call each other on first name basis, going there into your clients, calling them on a first name basis? Imagine a 60-year-old woman who is doing enterprise in business, selling tomatoes there on the growth point, and you go and say, hello, Sarah, how are you? Is it acceptable in our culture? No, it doesn't. They feel respected if they're called by the name of their husband, Mrs. So-and-so, or mother of so-and-so, their firstborn child. So it's what we see, what we hear, the artifacts first, the basics of our culture. And in an organization like in MoneyMart Finance, usually we encourage to call each other on first name basis within the organization. I am called Ethel. Anyone, even the lowest candidate who has joined today, can call me Ethel, and I'm even offended. Why am I doing so? Why am I bringing this culture in the organization so that I give them room to be able to argue with an Ethel? Imagine the moment they get the mindset that this is ma'am, this is our boss. And you know, that level across their facts and their arguments and their innovation can be already disabled by just the thinking of, I'm going to talk to the boss and she wants to be called boss and I have to salute first before that. But this culture that we have in our organization cannot be the same in army. When you join the army, the boss has to be respected. You need to do a salute whenever you see him. So that's the importance of culture. And you need to understand why the army has to do that and why in our organization has to play a seemingly same level field, why we encourage that. So culture is so important in the organization that you are running today or in your organization. The next level is your beliefs and your values, your behavior. Unlike artifacts, these are not always readily observable. With artifacts, when you walk into an organization, you can really tell what happens here. With the boss, how do I feel when I'm told to go to that office? How am I told to go to that office? And when I'm told to go to another office, how is it presented for me to go to the other office? You can see, you can hear it. But with beliefs and values, these cannot be observed. You know, these are your values as a people. Something that you know, when you meet a MoneyMart Finance employee, you will know that they value integrity. How do they value integrity? Even if a client pays more than they are supposed to pay, they've got the confidence to say, ma'am, you gave me more than what you're supposed to give me. It's what you carry inside you as an organization. That worthiness of the organization, what do you believe in? Do you believe in confronting each other and clearing off disagreements and wake up to the next day on an understanding level field? Or the belief in your organization is on grapevine? Before I can confront the person who has done A, B, C, D to me, I need to first tell someone that someone needs to tell someone, and then those kind of things, they're not observable by the naked eye, but it's the thing that the organization is nurturing and the organization is accommodating. It's accommodating Grapevine. Even if it gets to the boss, he laughs about it and thinks it's just going to end, just like that. Or you prefer for an open door policy where people, when they are not happy, they can truly say, but Ethel, I don't think I'm happy with this that has happened. Can I share my experience and can I share my thinking around this and the manner that this issue has been handled? You see, and the highest level of culture is assumptions. These are taken for granted. Those notions on how something should be done in an organization, it's never laid down. The reason why I encourage personally, no matter how small your organization is, even when you are still the only one running that business, you need to write down your policies. What is those steps that should be done? What are those things that should be followed when someone joins in that organization? Even you, the things that you need to respect as the owner of the business, so that people don't assume, they come into MoneyMart, they just assume that, we can dress anyhow, we can, I can wake up in any office, they assume that even if I abscond a meeting, it's nothing wrong about it because it was never written down or it was never given to someone that this is the manner that we do things. Assumptions are a type of culture that can destroy an organization, and that as entrepreneurs, as people in business, we need to really take care of them. But now here's the question. You're saying, Ethel, so how do I build a culture? Should I really call in people for a training and try to force them with value integrity here? What should we do? I know this, I've been there. I was one person coming from a rural background where we don't really confront even elders, and maybe you just find a polite way of saying your things, and you cannot really be aggressive, in certain situations. But now this is an organization. We are not home when you come to work, when you come to your business, when you gather around with your colleagues, with your employees. You need to be able to build a culture. And the source of the culture of your organization is you, the founder. What do you believe in? What's that your vision that you are carrying? And you are saying, for us to be able to deliver this vision, this is the manner that we should walk. I'll give you an example. With the type of clients that we serve in MoneyMart Finance, I told you these are elderly women who are coming from a strong social backgrounds, where when they just see you, they either connect with you or they disconnect immediately. But what will make them disconnect from you and what will make them connect from you? Especially the women we serve, dressing can make them disconnect from you. If they just perceive I'm a girl, this dressing I'm putting on it does not speak to them as a girl with so much value of yourself, with so much respect to me, and also coming where I am doing my business wearing such clothing as if she's going to a party. They can automatically disconnect. And also an example that I discovered when we are hiring our new employees, we really try to understand their backgrounds. Do they understand the basic cultural values that are withheld in those communities that we serve, in the rural communities? Do they understand that greeting of an elderly person is beheld so valuable in a community that if you just pass by an older man or an older woman without passing greetings, they stop immediately and try to know where you come from, whose child are you, which family do you come from, why don't you greet your elders, you know? So we try by all means to, when we do these interviews, this is the things that we really look into before we even look into qualifications, whether you can reason to be with us or not, because of the market that we serve. We do understand our customers and what they value. And this is the culture that we try to instill in our organization. So you as the founder, you are the source. You need to lead by example. You need to set it up and make sure that everyone understands. And one of the things culture is learned within an organization is by them observing the things that you do. You do Grapevine as the founder and the founder of the organization and the CEO. Everyone will follow suit and you'll not be able to control it. You are an open boss, you're an open founder. When something bad has happened, you quickly correct it. You teach the person, you tell them how to do it better in the following day. You find that even when your managers come in, the people who are sitting next to you, around you, they are also able to do the same. They uphold that same value that you uphold. That's how you build culture. And now the selection criteria for your top management, even down to socialization, this is what I've been trying to explain. Your top management, what do they see from you? What do they admire from you? What is it that they uphold? Even if the next competitor comes and offers them a job, would they say, no, I can't move away from MoneyMart even if you are going to increase me to this range of salary? Because I feel at home, I am valued. The culture in my organization is that I know I'm part of a family. I know I'm in an organization that people care for me. My boss care for me. They know what I uphold this vision with everything that I have, and I'm able to defend it with everything that they have. This is what then feeds into that into your organization culture, into your company culture. How do you socialize with them? Are you that kind of a founder who, whenever you then knocks into the office, everyone disappears or it becomes so quiet? The team cannot even continue to freely engage as they were doing when you were not around. So these are the things that then take you into that level of saying, when people see your organization and when they meet your employees, they meet the people that you work with, they can tell that there's a strong culture in this organization. And it seems as if they uphold their values as it were. So that's how employees learn the culture. Sometimes it's about the stories that we talk about within our teams, the examples that we do, the rituals that we do. Maybe because you are in a situation where, like, for a very good example is our country. It's a more of a Christian country. When we do meetings, we start with a prayer, and this is so obvious to everyone. Those are the things, these are the rituals that you do as a people, that you as a people who are gathering together do on everyday basis. Whenever we meet, there's hi Ethel. We just don't say hi as if someone does not have a name. For you to really express that you are greeting this particular person, I'm then making sure that I greet them with their name together with that greeting. So that's how others then learn how things are done within your organization. And your language, how do you speak to each other? Do you raise voices when you're really angry, or you take time to invite your colleague and sit down and try to explain and express where they've gotten it wrong and show them the direction, and make sure you putting yourself in their shoes, that giving them a benefit of doubt to say, maybe they'd not met these scenarios. And for me, I need to really use proper language for them to understand and do it better. Even the material symbols around us in the organization, what do they tell us? What is it that they are making our employees learn about the culture that we uphold in our organization? And how do you maintain this culture? You know, this is very, very tricky. Ask me about it. I started with only 3 employees, and culture, when you're just the 4 of you, you know, your brother, your sister, you are just this close family. And now you are running an organization where there are over 130 employees. And you might not be now knowing every other employee of yours, but you still want to uphold that culture. Maybe when you do a survey, a general survey across the organization, and ask them a simple question, rating from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest, would you recommend your colleague to come and work for us? Go and try and do it. You will find amazing results. You will find people writing 2s, 1s, 3, 2. You rarely men will be writing a 5 to recommend just someone to join our organization. It feeds into how we have maintained the culture as the company grew. You know, especially when the manner that our organization as entrepreneurs, maybe to speak for me in my industry, being a digital world and being more of a fintech, we are waking up from 3 employees to hundreds of employees, because all of a sudden we are covering the whole continent because of the acceptance of our product, that it has made impact into the market. How do you keep on maintaining, maybe to make sure that the culture that you uphold in Zimbabwe is the same culture that will be upheld in Nigeria, that will be upheld in South Africa, that will be upheld in Ghana? How are you going to be able to do that as an entrepreneur to effectively maintain the culture? For me, it was so very difficult, very. And so should is disintegrated. We cannot continue to be doing it from the headquarters. There are certain levels of HR hiring that now needs to be done in various offices across the country. How are you going to be able to make sure that if you travel from one branch of MoneyMart in the Eastern Highlands of Zimbabwe, you are going to find the same culture and the same people when you go to the southern part of Zimbabwe, of the same organization? The dissemination of information is very important. It has to be thorough. It has to be efficient, and make sure that every employee got the information. And as the founder of the organization, or as the manager of that organization, you need to be a role model. And you being a founder, you need to have a role model code. where you can make sure that you train your immediate managers who can also train the trainer, who can also train the next level of management, the next level in the organization until to the last level of the organization, so that the information gets there intact without a broken telephone. And it will be also good to reward ethical behavior and announce it so that they get to know that this is what defines us. You know, giving a shout of a testimony of someone who has really done well in the things that you are making sure you are upholding. In MoneyMart Finance, every year, we actually have awards night, internal companies awards night, where we give awards. Who has been the best employee of the year? And we explain what has made that person the best employee of the year with evidence. You know, we play the testimonies. You know, we have got 10 women who are testifying to say, please don't remove such and such a person to save me, because this person has done A, B, C, D for me. We reward for such behavior because we are trying to uphold a certain culture. And we penalize violators. We do. And we have to make it known across the board that this one violated a certain aspect of our culture and we don't tolerate it. This will make it effective across the board. And there's nothing that we can do as entrepreneurs to uphold our culture if you are not going to be fair and transparent. We need to be transparent as much as we can. We need to be able to make sure that everyone really understands what we mean when we say we value a certain value. When we say we value, as MoneyMart Finance, we value people, we value innovation, we value integrity, we value positive transformation, we value operational efficiency. What do we mean? We need to be so open and fair and transparent of the guidelines when we award you for upholding the value of integrity. What did you do that showed integrity? Of innovation, what new product did you do? And me, as the founder and as the boss, I should not take credit of the things that I've not really made up. If it's a junior who has done that, I should talk about it on top of my voice that it was Peter and John who suggested this model to us. This is how much we value innovation and we are rewarding them for such upholding of a value. So culture needs to be maintained. These are the benefits of culture. No matter what, you build a strong organization if your culture is good, if you uphold a culture. Job satisfaction. You know, job satisfaction, ladies and gentlemen, is beyond a salary. Yes, a salary gets to a certain extent, but the culture in the organization can make people stay in that organization. You definitely have low turnover. Once there's job satisfaction because of how we do things, and people are coming in believing in that vision, believing in the mission, and them seeing where they are contributing to the mission and being rewarded for it, where can they go? There's an inner satisfaction that we as human beings always need, which can be recognized beyond the material things that we give our employees. It can go beyond salary. It can go beyond benefits. I've seen people, ladies and gentlemen, who have gotten off high chairs where they were given big benefits, big salaries, but they said, I could not stay. There's just toxic culture in this organization. I can't stay. I would rather go where I'm paid a low salary, but my well-being is upheld. There will be better attendance rates. You cannot talk of customer satisfaction. Positive ethical values. I'm running against time. I know, Tyra, my time is up. But from what you have heard, how do you then view company culture from now? Is it enough for you? Are you going to be acting anyhow as the founder, as a manager, as an employee, as a colleague in your team? How do you view that company culture from now? Are you going to continue in that behavior? You know this is wrong. I am just doing it for selfish ambitions. It's not right. Or it's a man, it's not really necessary anyway. Or it's, wow, this is, my eyes have been opened. Wow, we need to uphold a certain culture for us, especially when you're having high labor turnover. Sit down. There's high probability of around 78% according to studies that people run away from their workplaces because of the culture that's in that workplace. You need to sit down. High labor turnover usually is not just about salaries. It's the culture that's in that organization that's making people run away from you. They cannot stay anymore near you. They feel threatened. They've got so much fear when they wake up going to work. They are thinking, oh my God, I'm going to that place once again. They don't feel like waking up and looking forward to tomorrow just because of the culture that you have put in that organization. Culture is very important. It can make you go under. Even if you are doing well in terms of your business model, but if you have got a toxic culture, you can wake up out of the market because people are not willing to be with you. Thank you so much. Those are my contacts on the screen for further discussions. And from now, I can take questions. Over to you, Tahira, again.
Thank you so much, Ethel. The presentation was so insightful. If you take a look at the chat, people were loving it. So we're going to take one quick question from Adrian Sakuya. So Adrian, I have given you permission to talk. Can you kindly unmute and then you can ask Ethel your question directly?
Okay, thank you so much, Tahira, and thank you, Ethel, for the wonderful presentation. It was quite informative and impressive. And I have worked for organizations that grow with time, and one of the challenges that I have seen is culture dilution. So as the organization grow, interaction with people from different cultural backgrounds and ethnicity groups is inevitable. And one of the main major issue is that of opinion leaders emerging. My question is, how do you deal with these things or even avoid culture dilution? Thank you.
Can I take that, Tahira, or I can get another question and just make them two at once?
No, you can take it. We're only going to take this one because the time is a little bit tight.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Thank you so much, Adrian. And it's so true. Like I was saying, as an organization grows, you can start losing the aspect of the culture. It's different when we're still few, and opinion leaders really emerge. My advice is that we need continuous training, and the CEO, the founder, needs especially to be able to be in touch, especially, in a group of people, there are certain leaders that emerge because they've been told to be leaders, but they just like overshadow everything else. So as a leader, you need to be able to identify such people. And whenever you want to pass opinions even to others, you need to take them aside, make a discussion with them, and make sure you align with them and tell them, this is the thing that we are moving at this point in time, and this is the manner that we are going to go about it. If they've also brilliant ideas, take their ideas with you too, so that they also have acceptance, and you go and you grow better. Not every leader who you have named manager is the true manager of that group of people. There are inherent leaders within influencers, if I can say. You need to be able to identify those influencers and make sure they are the ones who influence first, so that you uphold the culture of the organization.
Thank you so much, Ethel. So I think we're not going to do the fireside chat, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you, do you have any advice for our ABH applicants this year as the deadline's approaching?
Definitely. I've got this advice for the applicants as the deadline is approaching. Just share your answers with your mentors, the people who have been working with you through this journey in your organization, and hear their comments so that your responses are very much in line with the responses that are being asked in the competition. And also meet the deadline. Don't wait for the last minute to submit your application. Technology will fail you on that day. Just make sure you are there on time. Better submit 2 days before, a day before, earlier, rather a week before. Do it, send it, be confident. We are vying for you. We are supporting you.
Thank you so much, Ethel. So good. Do you want to come back on camera for a quick little 2020 reunion as our alumni?
Absolutely.
And then Soga, what advice do you have for our hopeful applicants as well?
So I think that for me, it's to put your best foot forward. Just making sure that you have everything you need and you are like business ready, because I know that there's at least when we did it, there's a time when you have to like show your documents and whatnot, to make sure that you don't wait till that time comes and then you don't have everything you need. So making sure you have everything you need before then, very important.
Thank you so
Hi,
much,
Ethel.
Soga.
How's it going? Great listening to you.
Great, Soga. Hi.
It's so good to have you both with us. So our 2023 applications are currently open, but they're closing really soon. So you should take Ethel's advice and get going on those applications, because the deadline is next week, Friday, the 12th of May. So get working. We also have a final push event next week, Wednesday. Michael has dropped the registration link in the chat. So sign up for that. We have some judges joining. We have some heroes joining who are going to share you some more tips on how to get that inside track to ace your application. And then you could be where Soga and Ethel are right now as our ABH alumni, sharing their insights with the community. So please register, join, get those applications in, because we'd love to meet more of the amazing entrepreneurs across the continent like Ethel and Soga. So Ethel, Soga, thank you both so much for taking time out of your very, very busy schedules. I know you're both busy expanding, growing, just leveling up and taking your businesses to the next level. So we are super excited to keep an eye on how you're going to grow this year. Before everyone drops off, we just have a very quick poll. If you can answer it for us, I'm going to launch it right now. It'll help us learn and improve on the event in the future. So the first question is just on how did you hear about today's event? If it was in our newsletter, social media, or if you heard about it through a friend. Then the second one is, just on the quality of the event, so we know how can we improve and do better. We also would love to know, are you going to come back? The next event is going to be at the end of July. We're going to get more heroes. They're going to share more topics. Ethel and Soga chose their topics today. These are, things that they're passionate about, they're interested in. And then the next question is, what did you enjoy most about today's event, so we know what to keep doing? And are you applying for this year's competition? I see quite a few people not yet. You got to get those applications in because the deadline is approaching. If you have applied, I hope you've completed. And if you haven't, log back in, submit that application. You can edit it right until the deadline. But as Ethel said, don't let technology fail you. Start now, get going, have people review your application, because you really want to put that best foot forward for. This year is also going to be our 5th anniversary. So we have some exciting things in store for our heroes joining this year. You'll also, if you make it through the competition, you get to join the incredible community of core heroes that we have, like Ethel, Soga, which is very exciting. We do a lot more events. We have some training planned. So keep an eye on what we're doing. And please share your feedback with us on how you thought the event went today so we can do better. Ethel, thank you again so much. Do you have any last advice that you can share or anything else that you want us to know about company culture?
Oh, definitely. My advice is that it's never too late or too early to start building the culture. It starts with you when you're still alone in that business. When it's just in your heart, you need to set up the values. It starts as early as that. When the next person joins, make sure you instill that to everyone who will be joining as the organization is growing year by year. And also, allow me to comment to say, as Soga advised, build a strong network. Yes, you need to build a strong network. It's one now of the biggest capital that you have in an organization. And when you join the ABH competition and you are one of them, I'm telling you, you will see the value in it. You will see please make sure you submit that application before the 12th. Please do that. Just click that submit button and let it go.
Definitely, because you would hate, we don't want to get emails after the submission from people saying, I'm so sorry I missed the deadline. Get them in, get it sorted. We want to see your applications. Our judges are ready and waiting to hear about your businesses, to learn about what you're doing, and definitely tap into those networks. What's been amazing about this community of heroes is that entrepreneurs, mentors, they all want to help. So reach out to people, ask for advice. I'm sure if you hit Ethel up on LinkedIn, she'll give, if she's got time, she'll get back to you if you need any assistance. We also have the Final Push workshop next week. You'll be able to ask our judges, our heroes, our wonderful host Anita questions. So do join that if you're still working on your application, and just get it in. Even if your answers are ready, go read them again and just make sure that you're really putting that foot forward, because this could be your year. And you could be our next Africa's Business Heroes. Cool. And
Thank you so much, Tahira.
Yeah, answer the poll. Michael, any last words from you?
No. Very exciting event. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Soga, anything else that you want to say before we let you have your wonderful day out in the US?
Nothing much. Just it's been a pleasure being here. So thank you for having me. And yeah, good luck to everybody with the application. I can remember when I applied also. It's just feels like yesterday, but yeah. So hopefully, you make it through, and this community is amazing, and it's a pleasure to be part of the community.
Thank you so much, Soga. And thank you, Ethel. We love having you both in our community, and we can't wait to see who's going to be joining it this year. Also, we know the application might be long, but it's worth it. It's also shorter this year than it was before. So keep pushing. We also have heroes who've made it all the way to the top 10 before, who thought about quitting, and then they ended up winning and going all the way. So you never know. It could be your chance, and you won't know unless you shoot your shot. What do they say? You miss 100% of the opportunities you don't take. So please get those applications in, click that submit button, as Ethel said, and send it off. We are waiting to get them in. Feel free. We also have application guideline videos on our YouTube channel. We have application guidelines on our website. We have customer support agents on standby, ready to help you. Email us, WhatsApp us, message us on our live chat. If you even need to DM us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, any questions you have, we're ready to help you get those applications in, get them over the finish line. So yeah, thank you all so much for joining us today. I see that almost everyone has said that they're going to be back for the next Scale Up event. So keep an eye on your emails because that's going to be happening in July. We're going to have some more exciting speakers, some more insightful presentations. And thank you all so much for joining today. And big thank you again to Ethel and Soga for taking the time to be with us. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Soga. Bye, Ethel. Thank you so much.
Bye, bye, everyone. Thank you so much. Love you all.
Thanks for our interpreters as well. Thank you. Bye.